Could someone get the lights, or at least tone down some of the lights so we could see the slides better? Can everybody hear me okay? This takes about 10 minutes to go through these slides. We start with the angel's view of the church. This was before we started any of the work. Actually, Google satellite view, and you notice how dark, almost black, the slates were. And we always thought, well, that was the color of the slate. Not true. When we actually got it down and broke into it, we found that it really was a light green color. It's called unfading green. And there's two samples over here, by the way. Come and take a look at them. On the left is one of the original slates that was on the roof for 99 years. On the right is what we replaced it with. And I'll say a few words about that great quality slate that we put out. This whole thing started 99 years ago. In 1914, there was a tragic fire. The church roof burned at the time that workers were installing the new electrical light system. Before that, the illumination was from gas lights. And so after the fire, the roof was rebuilt. They put high quality slate on there, but in 2013, after 99 years, it was showing its age. There were holes in the roof. You can see some. Try to pull out every, but there are missing slates and actually holes that open. This is actually the source of some of our leaks. This pointer, there we go. The pointer's working. There's a hole there. There's another hole over here. There were a number of holes in the slate. Those could have been patched. And in fact, we were patching at a rather high cost every year. But you can see there were also a lot of broken and missing slate. And some of the slates came loose and came all the way down and punctured the gutters. We have internal gutters on the church, and they're made out of stone, and they were waterproofed with bituminous material, but the slate would puncture it and cause a leak. So the gutters were leaking, and we were having some damage inside of the church sanctuary. The tower also, this is right at the front of the church. It looks like stone. It actually was a metal, sheet metal, galvanized sheet metal. It was beginning to corrode and was in bad shape, and we wanted to repair that as well. We determined that it was repairable, but it was going to be a lot of handwork to get that done. And as we inspected the building, there were also holes in the masonry that needed repair. Here's a hole that needed some more mortar. There's a lot of mortar that was just missing on the old stonework, so we wanted to add that to the project as well. Also, we had some broken glass. We figured, well, once we get everything scaffolded, we might as well take care of some of these other issues. And so there were broken storm windows on the sanctuary. You can see some examples of that, some missing panes of glass. And we wanted to fix that because that would protect the stained glass itself. So here we are, 2013, and we have restored the roof. We did competitive bidding. We found there were actually, you wonder, who do you hire to do this kind of work anymore? There were 3 firms in the Detroit area that we vetted that had the capability and the experience. One of them, though, didn't have enough staff currently that was skilled enough to actually carry out the project. And the other 2, but we got 2 good bids. We decided to hire the Detroit Cornice and Slate Company. I was hoping that these guys were going to be here today, but they're not. Mark Hess is on the left, 4th generation owner of this company. That was founded in 1888. It's been in continuous business in the city since 1888. His brother is Kurt Hess. Kurt was here every day with his crew of about 10 guys that were very highly skilled. And they work around the country, by the way. They don't just work in the Detroit area. They came here from Minnesota and Ann Arbor to start our project. And as soon as they were done, they were pulled off, and they were working down in Ohio. 2 jobs in Ohio, yes, that's right. Okay, so July 29th, we got started. It started with construction, with erection of this great crane. This is an electrically driven, German-engineered crane called from the Potain Company. Came on a trailer, they set it in place, and it literally, like a transformer, just set itself up. It just sort of unraveled and it just sort of step by step, it just one continuous motion. The whole thing was constructed. You can see how big it is here. It would actually span Fort Street all the way across. It reached from the parking lot to the west side of the roof, if you can believe that. It had a tremendous stretch. On August 5th, the scaffolding was put up on the west side of the building. You can see all the scaffolding here. And they used what's called roof jacks. Roof jacks makes it safe for the workers to be up on the steep slope. And you notice the scaffolding that's below there, that scaffolding with the handrail made it so that they could meet OSHA rules without having to be tied off. Most of us, we definitely would want to have a rope around us if we were on this roof, 100 feet above the ground. These guys worked without any slings or any ropes most of the time. And they were allowed to do that by OSHA rules because of that, because of the flat section and the handrail, and the use of roof jacks. So they started removing as they removed the old slate, they put 2 layers of tar paper down, asphalt felts, and that would shed the rain while the new slate was being put up. So they took it off in sections. By August 15th, 10 days later, all of the slate had been removed from the west side of the church sanctuary. And also at that time, they had already started work on the east side. You get an idea of the scale here with the size of the men on that gigantic roof. This is kind of interesting. The church has internal gutters lined with wood, and then it's built out of stone. And then in the corner, they slope down between the finial. The finial's about 15 feet apart, and the gutter goes down from there. I've got a message that somebody in a white Buick is blocking the person who's trying to leave. If somebody parked blocking in a white Buick. This is kind of interesting. This is what had been in place. This was an old copper downspout, and that has now been removed. It used to sit in the corner. You can see what's being installed is a new copper sheathing which lines the gutters. We've got some more photographs of that. So the first thing that went in place was ice and water sheet. And this is sheet membrane. We put that down and provided waterproofing during the construction, but it was going to be left in place also. So even though it's protected by copper sheeting, that second protection is always in place underneath there. On August 15th, the first delivery of the copper sheeting arrived. And this was a Thursday morning. The guys were in the parking lot over here lined up. So they pulled on the other side of the building. So they were trying to hide the fact that they were delivering thousands of dollars of copper to the building. And up on the scaffold, this is what you see what's happening is that the copper sheet lines the gutters and then goes up 2 feet underneath the slate. The joints are all soldered, so there's no joints. This is old craftsmanship. This is real old school work. It is designed to last approximately 80 years. And then this flashing will have to be replaced at that point. But they have great craftsmen that are still available and are still skilled at doing this work. There's a close-up of one of those scenes.
Rob, we're all wondering if you were up on the road taking those pictures.
No, I didn't take that picture. Chris Kingans took a lot of these pictures that I would not take. And I was hoping Chris was going to be here today, actually, but he didn't come. And anyway, then on August 19th, they put scaffolding up around this tower at the front of the church so they could start the repair of that. This was very slow work. It was all hand work to repair the metal. In some cases, some areas of metal had to be actually replaced. But most of it was just cleaned up and then coated with a very high performance modern material that will last probably 20 to 25 years before it starts to wear. This is Chris Kingans. This is the guy that was up on the roof. Chris was a former roofer. He used to do this exact type of work, slate and copper work. And so he was the best guy available to go up and inspect it and make sure that they were doing a flawless job, which of course they were. So Chris took these pictures. This is from the top of the tower. And so that's a view of the WCC building, Ambassador Bridge, Canada beyond there. This is my favorite picture that we took. So that's Joe Lewis Arena in Canada. You can see how steep this roof is. It's about 60 degrees. We also had to repair these ventilators. There were 3 ventilators that come up off the roof and help to keep the church cool in the summer. And it's a long way down to the ground. When you're up that high, you can see that how the stone is being eroded by acid rain. Eventually, we're going to have to try to coat this stone or maybe replace it. But it's probably good for at least another 100 years. By August 19th, the slate had been fully removed from the east side of the sanctuary as well. And the very final step was to remove all the original copper flashings that flashed into the stone walls. And a lot of the slates were saved. And thanks to Jack Callis and yours truly, here we are down in the boiler room cleaning their slates. So before everybody leaves today, actually we've got enough for the people who show up. Everybody here can take a slate. If you want more than that, put your name on a waiting list if you don't mind. We're going to see how many are available at the end. The slates are over here, and we'll help you wrap them in newspaper.
How heavy are they?
They're not real heavy. They're probably 3 or 4 pounds. The old slate are very thin. They're about between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 inch thick. The new slate is thicker.
They shatter really easy.
They're very fragile right now because they are 99 years old. And so on August 21st, we got the first shipment of the new slate. The slate is from the Comara Quarry in Vermont. It is the same color, we determined, as the original slate. We don't know where the original slate, which quarry it came from, but it's very probable most quarries for roof slate are either in Pennsylvania or in Vermont. So it came from one of those. But the slate we purchased was at the recommendation of our roofers. They said, this is the best quality slate, it exceeds your standards. I didn't believe it, because we specified the highest grade that can be specified. It's called an S1 grade of roofing slate. So, not believing it, we took several slate and we sent, actually this is kind of a normal procedure. You send them to a testing lab just to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for. Well, this slate exceeded the very highest standards. It's called this S1 standard for slate, and it's typically is said to last 100 years. In fact, the Comara Quarry guarantees our slate for 100 years. None of us will be around to collect on that, but they guarantee it for 100 years. And so this slate we tested was 3.2 times as strong. As strong as the highest grade of slate that we specified. It absorbed only 46% of the water of that standard, and was about two and a half times more resistant to abrasion. So this is the type of slate that truly can last hundreds of years. It's possible it could be there a long, long time. This is how they ship it in large crates like this. The new slate is slightly smaller. We did that on purpose because it's a little bit stronger than the old slate, because the sheets aren't quite as big. And there are samples up here. Come and take a look at them. It's kind of interesting. The holes are punched by hand. On the back side, you get a very small little 1/8-inch diameter hole. This is blown up, of course. But on the front side, it blows out, makes a big opening. And so the copper nail that goes in is actually recessed in this wide opening. So take a look at that. In fact, one of the nails that they used, I got one of the nails in the slate here too. You can take a look at it. So, and the slates are put up in layers so that the joints offset. And there's 3 layers of slate over the entire roof. As the joints step back and forth, there's always a minimum of 3 layers to make sure that the water doesn't get past. So the slates are heavy, so the crane lifts only a few at a time. On August 23rd, they started installing the new slates. You can see just the first few going on the west side of the church. On August 29th, just a week later, the west side of the church was maybe about 30% covered. But by September 12th, the entire west side was done, and they were already working on the copper flashings. There are copper flashings along the stone wall over here, and then along the steeple wall, and at the base of the tower. And the way we specified these flashings was kind of interesting because the stone was being eroded. We have, first of all, this flashing, there's little sheets of copper, it's called step flash. It goes underneath every piece of the slate. And these are small sheets that are about 2 foot by 1 foot, but they go underneath the slate and they overlap each other. And then the counter flashing goes over the top of all that. That's this copper sheet that comes all the way down here. But the back side is also covered with copper, so the entire, this copper is coated with zinc, so it's the same color as stone. We wanted to seal the whole wall because water was getting into the wall. Also on September 12th, I like this picture. Insulation of slate was progressing on the east side. And here's some close-ups. These I did take myself because I could stand on the top of this roof. It's pretty easy to get on the top of this flat roof here. And I did take these pictures, but not the other more daring ones that Chris took. And again, you can see these guys working without harnesses, without cables of any kind, and without fear. They do it every day. And it's very hard hand work. You know, you could imagine working, stretching, kneeling. It gets very hot on the roof. It's hard work for these guys, but they're very, very skilled at what they do. Here you can see some of the copper flashings that are in the process of being put against this stone wall in front of the church, and also in the gutters. And then on September 29th, the installation of the slate was finally completed. Hurrah! And this is the east side of the building. I got some close-ups of some of this copper work because what they did was just so beautiful. Here you see it stepped into the stone. It's actually tucked into the stone, and then the joints are soldered. Even these little joints are soldered. They have to be soldered in place. This is what the detail of the gutter actually looks like up close. So the copper lining of the gutter goes down and it goes right over the edge, and then there's a bent form that connects it to this called freedom metal, but it's zinc-coated copper, which covers up the rest of the stone. And we, like I said, we wanted to cover this because water was getting in and was starting to deteriorate the stone. There's a view of the completed gutter. And the finials are about 15 feet on center, this big stone finials here. So what they did is they flashed all the way around the finial. Lots of handwork. This is a photo of the back side, and you can see this little saddle that was made, so the water runs down both ways. But they continued the metal, and then this freedom metal, zinc covered metal, up to cover the bottom part of the stone finial also, so it wouldn't be damaged by ice and snow. Here's a close-up of the flashings on the back wall of the church. So we raised the roof. Congratulations. Beginning of the next 100 years. And now our new project. We're calling this the SOS project, Save Our Steeple project. The steeple, when the roofers were here, they did a thorough inspection of the steeple. They gave us a long list of what it needed. It's about $170,000 of work. By the way, we don't have that to do, but let me just tell you that what they did do is they replaced the slate. Here you see some of the broken slate on the steeple. That's been fixed, which is good. But the louvers need replacement. They're letting water in. There's some rot of the flat roof there. We have birds and bats in our steeple. The railings are crumbling and need to be replaced. It's actually dangerous to be up there with the situation. The east brace has caved in. The chimney needs to be rebuilt. That black form of there, that's actually a chimney for our boiler. It comes all the way up here and out. and it's caving in, it needs to be rebuilt. We need some structural reinforcement also in bird screens to keep the birds and the bats out. So we are going to be starting a fund to take donation. I don't know when this roof will be. The steeple needs rebuilding now, but we don't have the money. So, but we just wanted you to all know that the SOS campaign will be going on over the next few years. So that's all I have today.
Thanks, Rob.